So, hi, welcome to Wisdom on the Front Porch. Today, my guest speaker is Chris Felton. Chris, tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
I'm a 53-year-old financial services entrepreneur and author speaker in Castle Rock, Colorado, with two kids of 23 and 20. And my purpose on this planet is to help people get out of their own way and free themselves mentally and financially so they can live the amazing life that they so deserve. And I wrote an article a couple months ago of why are there so many smart, talented, broke people? And I have tremendous empathy for smart, talented, broke people because I was one, and it stinks to have ability and talents and bring a ton of value, yet your bank account does not reflect it. So I want to help people solve that problem.
That's awesome. And it's awesome that you've gone through it. So you really understand the pain they're going through, but you understand the difficulties it takes to go from broke to not being broke anymore. And I agree with you. A lot of it is mindset, things we were taught, maybe from our parents or family. Um, Education doesn't always prepare us how to handle things financially. I remember taking a financial aid or a financial progress class, something like that in high school. It was about to teach you finances and all about it. And what they did was tell you, okay, how much are you going to make a month? How much do you want to pay for an apartment and all of this stuff with no guidelines, no real world numbers, like how much does an apartment really cost? Go research it, find out if you're going to get an apartment, find out how much it's going to cost. You want to do this job or make this much money, what jobs are out there that will give you that much money? Or if you want to do a certain job, how much are you going to make? And it didn't cover any of those things. And so I had no idea on what the real world was offering. And I always wish that would have been offered. Now things have changed because it was a long time since I was in high school. And I see different programs that actually talk about that. Um, so what is your advice, maybe to a high schooler that is looking to get out in the real world? What should they do? How should they prepare for it?
Well, I really I think there's a one of my heroes in the personal development space, guy named Brian Clemmer, wrote a book called "If How-Tos Were Enough, We'd All Be Rich, Skinny, and Happy." And um, because people go through school and they just sit and they take in information and they regurgitate it back, you know, if you're coming out of high school or college, you're 12, 16 years of kind of, taking action, sitting down and regurgitating back. And at the end of the day, your beliefs are the star of the show. And so if somebody wants to, and if we're just talking about, having a prosperous life, not just money, but money is a sign of a prosperous life, you really have to do the work of what when I when the word money comes up, what is my reaction to that? What are my thoughts around that, right? That's one of the first things that my coach had me do, because I was $250,000 in credit card debt. I was,
Wow.
you know, leaking money everywhere. And my background is as a CPA and financial advisor. And so, in my
Wow.
second current and last wife is like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, because and working hard, had some skills. It's not like I was sitting on my butt eating bonbons and watching TV. I was working my butt off, but I was running a marathon with a 20-pound bowling ball tied around my ankle, and that 20-pound bowling ball was my limiting beliefs. And so, the challenge is most of the successful, and we're just talking about money, right? But I believe you got to have success. You got to have abundance in all areas of your life, right? Because if you have money and
Yeah.
your relationships stink and your health is, it's never going to be worth it. But as my wife in our first book, Couples Money, interviewed, a bunch of very wealthy world-class couples who had wealth in all areas of their life, um, they were all programmed on a limited basis around money. And so from the time you're 0 to 4, you're like 50% programmed around everything, right? Money's good, money's bad. People are good, people are bad. Uh, you know, and you just take it in because you have no ability to accept or reject ideas at that point. And then what you take in, and it's a phenomenal quote from another one of my heroes in this space called Margaret Lynch, who wrote a book called Tapping into Wealth. She says the biggest determining factor of your financial success is the vows that you made to gain acceptance into your family at a young age.
Mm.
Biggest determining factor of your financial success is the vows that you made to gain acceptance into your family at a very young age. And so that whole 0 to 4 of like, oh, well, I want to gain their acceptance, so I'm going to buy their BS. And so we all go through that, right? Unless you grow up in a wealthy household where abundance is everywhere and it's just like a fish in water, like the fish doesn't know they're in water, but they're in water because it's everywhere. So they just don't know anything differently. But for the other 99% of us, that's not how it happens. And then we get those limiting beliefs. And so in my book, Think and Grow You, I lay out those limiting beliefs of rich people are bad people. Money's hard to make, hard to keep. Us Feltons just aren't really meant to be that successful, right? Just all this crap I was fed, and then it just hardens over time. And so you're 50% programmed by the time you're 4. You're 60, 70% programmed by the time you're 10. By the time you're 18, you are 95% hardwired programmed,
Wow.
meaning you're totally freaking unconscious. And so what I'm saying here is at some point, our study of self-made millionaires and billionaires, and the majority of them having, great lives, because that's the other thing is, oh, middle class, like, well, if I have money, then I'm going to lose my family. If I have money, I'm going to lose my faith. Like, there's a lot of garbage that they get fed that excuses them for not being successful financially. But at some point, they called time out to the BS and decided to upgrade, much like we would upgrade a phone, right? They upgraded their beliefs. And so for me, that happened at 37. And it was out of necessity that because I couldn't work any harder, I couldn't do more effort, and I was so sick of being broke. It sucked. And so I just said, I'm all in. And so I dove in. So anyway, so long-winded answer to your question. If you're coming out of high school or college, or I don't care if you're 90, it's never too late to actually sit down and go, what are my beliefs around money? And then go through the work of doing the upgrading, which is not the simplest thing, but it's better than being broke long term. And that's the process I went through to change. And I still work on it. Nobody ever arrives. If they do, they're in trouble. But the work is worth it, and our lives changed drastically because of it.
Yeah, that was a lot, and it put it out there pretty raw and real. One of the things I discovered last year that I was told is that that's for everybody else, not us, or that's for everybody else, not you. And I didn't realize how much that had held me back from doing anything I wanted to do. I still did things. I was still, alive and living life and whatnot. But some of those core things that I really wanted to do, it's like, oh, well, that's okay. Somebody else is going to do it. And it's like, it's not okay. Right now I'm putting together an event for musicians to play at Carnegie Hall. Why didn't I do it before now? 65 years old, what took me so long? That limiting belief that That's for other people, not you. It's like, why isn't it for me? It is. That's just it. It is for you. And I've talked with a few other people this last month, especially, I've noticed it. They've all said, yeah, I heard that all the time too. And it's like you don't even realize that you have limiting beliefs until you see something. And this is what we're doing here today, opening up those ears and minds and eyes to a life that's possible. It really is possible, not possible. Yeah, I guess, but it is a reality. You can have that life that you want, the income, the business, live that purpose you always knew you were meant to live.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, it's the, one of the skills of world class. And when I say world class, these are people that, you know, successful in all areas of their life. They operate from love and abundance and service and giving, and their whole thing is to solve people's problems. And they're world class from a wealth standpoint because they solved a big problem. They got wealthy in the process, right?
All right.
So they got wealthy, not from what my dad told me, right? You get wealthy on the backs of poor people, right? Total crap. They get wealthy by helping other people have a better life. Okay. So one of their skills is what's called metacognition, and it's the ability to think about what you think about.
Oh,
And
that's
so,
interesting.
well, it's just what you talked about. Like you tuned into a limiting belief that had been there all along, but you let it, as we all do, just let it slip past. And and so to make what is unconscious that isn't serving you conscious, then you can do something about it. And, for me, once again, another exercise, whether you're 15 years old, 500 years old, it doesn't really matter, is to really sit down and go, hey, here's this word money, and what I make up about that word?
Mhm.
And right. And I wrote all the stuff down, and I'm like, oh, I finally met the financial enemy, and it is me. And I'm like, well, no wonder I'm freaking broke. Like I'm repelling wealth, right? Why is it that 90% of lottery winners are dead, broke, or in jail inside of 10 years? These athletes that, grew up in poverty, and then they're broke. I mean, Mike Tyson used to say, he's like, money goes through my hands like sand.
Yeah.
And if you have that as a belief, you can't get wealthy. And so the good news is we're all jacked up there, right? The and I also think the good news is you can change it, because one of my beliefs is if other people can, I can. Like I've always
Right.
had that one. That one has served me. It's if other people can, I can. It's not can I, it's will I. And will I
Right.
will I do the work? But most people are interested in a successful financial life. They're not committed to it. And that's the problem in today's society is people think they can get something for nothing.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
it's a it's a fool's game. So understanding your beliefs, and there's, and that's the work I did. And as I started doing the work, I found a quote from Billy Graham. It's my favorite. One of my favorites from him is he said, once you get your attitude straight around money, it helps straighten out every area of your life. And
Oh,
I didn't know that my and most people's massive habits of living in constant judgment, uh, you're gonna be broke if you live in constant judgment. My coach called it throwing out a poop covered boomerang. What happens if you throw a poop covered boomerang out? It comes back with poop on it, right? And that's
yeah.
what happens with judgment. And my other coach called judgment public enemy number one. I mean, I had to forgive my ex-wife. I had to do a ton of work, and I thought it was about budgets and how to do money stuff. But no, I had to face my deservingness issues. I mean, it's all detailed in my book, but I took all those on, and what kept me moving was my coach was like, you don't have a money problem, you have a money project.
Hmm. Good way to put,
And
what's the title of your book again, real quick?
it's Think and Grow You.
Okay, Chris Felton, awesome.
Yeah, Think and Grow You. Um, and it just the problem the book solves is stuck. People get stuck and
Yeah,
they stay stuck and they don't know how to get unstuck. And I think people are more stuck than ever. And I have empathy for them because it sucks, but you can't get unstuck. And so I lay it all out there, the good, bad, and the ugly.
yeah, because you've got to address all of it. You can't just address one issue. You said something earlier that caught my attention is that money is a product of what we do. So if we're giving and we're supporting and we're helping, the money does come in. That's what I hear. And I've seen it with people that I'm working with. I am really amazed at how many millionaires I am around right now in this area that I'm in. And the one thing that had brought me to them in the first place was their giving. And it wasn't about money. I didn't even know what their financial status was or anything, but they had a heart and they were giving and they were helping other people. And that's what I'm drawn to, is people who help other people. Obviously, that's why you're here, is
Yeah.
because I see your heart in everything you do. You understand the pain of what it's like to not have to be not make it from paycheck to paycheck, and you're there to, hey, this is this is the answer I found. This is what did it for me. And it's great to hear people's problems but also know that you have a solution for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mean, left to our own devices, we either do nothing or we screw it up. So,
yeah,
I hired a coach for 4.5 years who was exactly where I wanted to be, and he was living the results I wanted. And, he
yeah.
transformed our lives. And so
that's
pay it
that's
forward. Yeah, pay it forward, whatever. And I mean, it's
yeah,
cool when you experience it, but the only place you'll find true fulfillment in life is if you're growing and you're contributing to others. And so
yes,
my wife found wealthy people that were in that mode. The other class that's not world class is called upper class. And upper class is, I call it looking for love in all the wrong places, right? They're just like, oh, I need more stuff.
yeah,
And it's often fed, never satisfied. And so what happens is people that are challenged, or we call them the middle class, they think that if they make money, they'll become upper class people. And so they actually repel themselves and they look at people with wealth from a very negative standpoint, which repels their money.
yeah,
And there's this whole other group that is, I call it, past the upper class, that has all the wealth, but it's all about contribution and growth.
yeah.
And they're out there, and hopefully you can find them.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. And I love the fact that you said you got a coach. I mean, you know, if you're on a sports team, what do? You have a coach who can help guide you, tell you, is your elbow in or out when you're throwing a basketball? Are your feet going the right direction? We need the same thing for mindset and for our wealth. We need a coach who knows how to get us to where we need to go. And I love that you do that. Coaches need coaches. And if you have someone who doesn't have a coach, go find someone who does, because you're always learning, you're getting better, you're making sure that you're giving to the people that are there. Um, so we've talked about, you talk about all ages, so it doesn't really matter what age you are to start learning about wealth. It's all in the mindset. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the older you are, the more programmed you are. But,
right,
it's just, it's that, hey, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Next best time's now. Right. So,
right.
um, yeah, I mean, because a lot of people are like, oh, is it too late? Or, Um, I have a chapter in my book called, You're Too Young to Be Old. And, um, when I turned 50, it was weird. I like changed and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm old or whatever the heck it was. Even though I'm like, God, I feel great. Like I'm as
Yeah.
good as I'm as good as I've ever been. Like, and then I just started challenging. And then I found a study, and it's in my book where it's like 70% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are over 60. The majority of popes are over the age of 70.
Wow.
Like it's there's lots of reasons, but you know who you are. You care less about what other people think, and you're not tied
Yeah.
up necessarily with building your family, and because they're out and they're independent on their own or all that. So there's
Right.
lots of reasons to go for it no matter what age you are, and you just got to make sure you don't buy into that traditional stuff. And there's a guy named Peter Diamandis. Highly recommend everybody follow him. He's one of the cutting edge you know AI, technology, health. He founded a company called Life Force with Tony Robbins. It's
Oh,
game changing healthcare stuff and testing and just all these things. But he's got a term called longevity escape velocity, and he said we're going to get to a point in the next 15 to 20 years because of the AI and the technology that if you can live a year, that technology is going to extend you a year.
oh,
And so he predicts his kids will live until they're 200 years of age. So, you know, to think you're in your 60s or 70s or 80s or whatever, and you're old, hang on, take care of yourself. You might be here in another 70 years.
all right. Yeah, I like
So
that.
they better prepare now.
Yeah. Yeah. When I turned 50, it was like, "Yeah, I'm 50, go on." But I noticed that once people found out my age, there was a difference on how they looked at me and treated me. And it's like, it's interesting because I was just 49 and you didn't look at me and treat me that way. But now that I'm 50, you do. And it's like, but it's like, well, hey, I'm 65, 66 now, I think, you know, I don't care. I got a whole life still ahead of me, I hope. And if I don't, I'm gonna make it the best as I'm going along the journey. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to say, it doesn't matter our age and what's been going on in the past. And well, I don't have time to take care of it now because you do. You're here right now. You have time today. You have time to take action. And that's a big thing is right there is taking action, even if it's one step forward. You listen to the podcast. Okay. You mentioned some great books and some great people here. Well, maybe I need to go check out your book. I mean, I love the title of your book. Going on the Think and Grow Rich thing, but it's Think and Grow You. Now it's the right title, right? Think and Grow You.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I love that because and I like that you brought out that money, and I know I said this earlier, but money is the byproduct of what you do. It's I've heard this and I didn't understand it, but I've actually been seeing it in action, especially this last couple of years, that those who are just pursuing the money, well, they may get it, but they're on a shaky foundation that's not going to last. And I've heard from those who said, yeah, I just pursued the money. That's all I did. And then we lost everything. So I had to start again, but I found out that pursuing the money wasn't the right way to do it. And now they've got that solid foundation. They have that passive income, the multiple streams of income. And that just kind of blew my mind the first time I heard that word, multiple streams of income. What does that even mean? And it's you don't have all your eggs in one basket, which means you don't have just one source of income. So if something happens to it, you still have the other sources that are helping you out. And what's your thoughts on a multiple source of income?
Um, my belief is you gotta focus on dialing in your main source of income first.
Okay.
because most people, because you hear multiple streams of income, and it's very in vogue thing to say, but what happens is, people lack focus.
Mm.
And so, I grew my financial services business to a level, and I'm more focused over there than ever helping people. Um, but I didn't start writing books and speaking and doing those things until I grew that to a level, right?
Okay.
And so you don't want to, a lot of people are like, oh, multiple streams of income, they have divergent focus, and they're not, they're the, jack of all trades, master of none.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's just my belief. I see a lot of people with multiple streams of income, but they're just broken all of them. And so
Yeah.
really focusing on driving and getting your financial house stable, and doing that, then you can add, more at that point.
Oh,
So
that's
anyway,
good
that's,
advice. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people probably disagree with me on that, but
No, I
you
think
got to
there's
get,
wisdom in that,
yeah,
That's
you
why
got to
we
get
call it wisdom on the front porch. You get,
yeah, you got to get financially stable. You can't have, 10 mediocre businesses. Have a
yeah.
rock star business, and then, I mean, we have them, but our bread and butter,
Yeah.
we drove that. So,
Yeah. And I like that, it's yeah, it is easy to keep following the shiny objects, and this is going to help us do this, especially with everything being online now. You're just inundated all the time with all of these companies here, do this side hustle, do that side hustle. This helps bring you in an income. It's a passive income. But what are you doing to, like you said, get that one stable income going? And are you focusing on that, or do you not have time to focus on it because you're so busy with all these other things that are going on? And I like that you said mediocre because, yeah, it can get that way so fast, so easy. I don't have time to put into anything, so everything's just kind of there. But, you ask somebody, how's your business going? Oh, it's all right. I got some stuff going on here, but look at what this that I'm doing now. We all like that dopamine rush of doing something new and the excitement with it and finding out what it is, but we got to go through that process of stability, doing the same thing, making sure that it's working and building that up. And like you said, then we can do those other things. So tell me about your speaking and all these other things that came out of your one business that you have.
um, well, I mean, my speaking is really, tied to my book, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and the problem that I solve there is financial stress, and the
Yeah.
root of financial stress is a broke mindset, right? And so the solution is you gotta change your broke mindset into one that attracts wealth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just got to do the work to do that. So yeah, so I do full day workshops, keynotes. My kind of my ideal audience is, I mean, I'm speaking to, super large mortgage company and lots of mortgage producers, but they're not doing well financially. Uh, they're stuck at an income level, or um, they're making money, but they're not keeping it.
Right.
Which that's a belief system. Realtors, solopreneurs, other advisors. That's kind of my ideal audience. That's who I teach to. Um, and there's 50 concepts in my book, and so I wrote the book. Super easy to read. It's only page and a half per concept, and it's
Okay.
300 to 400 words of teaching, a quote that backs up what I'm talking about, an action step that I actually took, a book, a coaching system, technology I used to change my mindset, and then an action step to apply it. And then it's my personal story that's, 600 to 800 words around the teaching.
Okay.
So it's very unique because most books just throw out words, and it's the same stuff that a lot of people have said. And so, and my book coach is a guy named Steve Siebold, who's sold, 4.5 million books, and he's made 50 million plus in speaking and all that. So we spent 9 months, all my content, but it was, 5 drafts, and He's like, it's going to be out there forever. So let's not rush it, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, write a book in a month. Like, why?
Yeah.
So I wrote every day for 45 minutes and, stream of consciousness and let it get out there. And then, um, then one of my friends is putting out a book. Hey, I just finished 60,000 words. And I'm like, Steve, mine's like 30. I'm like, is that a problem? He's like, let me do this, Chris. Hey, Chris, I'm going to come talk to your group. Do you want the 4 hour version or the 1 hour version? And he said, no, more is not better, bro. And so it is um, well written because of him. It's
Awesome.
tight, it flows, and the personal stories. That's actually how I wrote the book. He's like, write your 50 best personal development stories, and
Oh,
then
good advice.
we'll create the content around your personal development stories. So it's just super cool because somebody can read it, in a few minutes and just apply it. And it's not about getting through the book and getting a gold star, because there's lots of people that read books and nothing changes in their lives.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's about application of the book. And I had somebody reach out to me, she's like, oh my God, I've been on this chapter for a month. I'm like, that's it. That's it. That's how you do it. Apply it. Right. So it is really a handbook for an entrepreneur and somebody wants to level up their life, because I have, how did I stop worrying? How did I get over being an approval addict? It's not just money.
Yeah.
How did I forgive my ex-wife? Right? How did I accept that another man was raising my kids because we were at a distance? And how I did that
Yeah.
quickly. So it's really all the ways that I got unstuck and got out of my own way. And there's business planning stuff in there too, because my coach said, "Hey, you're a great goal setter, but you suck as a goal achiever." He
I think
taught
a
me
lot
how.
of us do.
Well, he taught me how to hit goals. A
Oh,
totally different
wow.
system than what we're taught. So anyway, so it's powerful, and
It's awesome.
from broken stuck to being a 7-figure entrepreneur, that's the handbook to do it. If anybody wants to do that.
Yeah, that's great. I've got my book here, and this is not to compare with yours, but it's, a similar process. Everyone has a 5 day, get this set up right. Everyone has a first day, 5 success principles for writers and entrepreneurs. And what do I do in there is I have lots of words, but I have pages. If you're watching the video, you can see there's places to write your own stuff in. Because good does it do to read my book if you can't apply it to your own life? And there's another one, more stuff that you can write and answer. And I love that you do that in your book, because it gives people a chance to process what you said. One thing that a lot of people have, they talk about morning routines and evening routines, and the one thing that I do in my morning routine is I have a book that I go through. Now, this I've got actually a couple books, one that I read a chapter every day, but then I have a study book. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a study book on the Bible or anything like that. It can be on something else. And it's probably where I would take your book. But I go through there and I may do one chapter, may take me a whole month, because I really want to understand the concepts in it and what it's teaching me and what I'm learning from. And I love that you do that, and you ask people to do that with your book, is to really understand it. Not that we need to do it for a whole month, but take the time to digest what you're reading, to understand it, to apply it to your life, and to be able to take action on it and say, okay, this is how it's always been in the past, but past isn't going to run my life anymore because it's
Yep.
gotten me nothing that I want. So let's just keep going on. And I love that you do that. And beans, I brought it up. Do you have a morning and evening routine? That seems to be a really big thing right now.
Um, yeah, yeah. Yep. I have forever. I talk about it in my book. Yeah,
Oh, good. Good.
it is about one of my favorite quotes is, if you want to change your life, you schedule it. And so if you want to change your life, you got to schedule the time and change your life. So you got to have those
Yeah.
routines
Yep, I
for
do,
sure.
and I've got an alarm set on my phone, 5 o'clock, I get up. And if I sleep in on a Saturday, it's okay because I still do that morning routine to go through it. it makes a difference. And I've really noticed, if I'm having a really, not so much that it's a bad day, because we don't really have bad days. We just have days that things aren't going how we think they should go. Um, but if I'm having a day that's getting really difficult, I need to take a pause and say, okay, stop. We've got to figure this out so the rest of the day doesn't go this way. And I'll wonder what's been different. What was yesterday? Was yesterday kind of difficult, or was it, and it's usually progressing of if I haven't done my morning routine, it's like, okay, you skip one day. One day's not going to hurt you, but if you skip a second day or a third day, you're going to really notice it. I notice
Yep,
it.
for sure.
Yeah, huge difference on
Yep.
how we do things. So do you have any closing thoughts for us? How do people get a hold of you?
So my website is chrisfelton.me. My book is on Amazon, and people looking for speakers to help their group get out of their own way. They know how to get a hold of me. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
looking forward
great.
to helping. Yep.
I love that you do this. You were able to do something and get out of it. And instead of just keeping it to yourself, you're sharing it with the world. And I
Yep.
know we're supposed to focus on one person or one group or one thing when we do it, but your book can help everybody because it has to do with how our minds work. What's
Yep.
the one thing that stands in our way more than anything? Our mind, how
Yep.
we think, how we process stuff. Yeah. So chrisfelton.me. I like that. I do like that. So Chris, before we end this, tell us one thing that people probably don't know about you that you're willing to share, um, that makes you Chris. What's one thing about you that's just really you?
I'm a psychotic Denver Broncos fan.
I love
Good,
that.
good, 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 bad, and the ugly. Anyway, I'm excited for football season. They start tomorrow, and we have a new quarterback, and everyone's excited. Anyway, I don't live and die by it. I used to be super psychotic, but
Yeah,
the more you grow yourself, the less you actually care about stuff like that. But it's still fun to be a fan, and
yeah.
been a fan since I was a little kid. So, anyways, go Broncos.
Yay. That's awesome. I'm Miami Dolphins fan.
Oh, we love the Dolphins too. That
Yeah.
we have a second house that we're actually closing on in 2 weeks
Oh, nice.
in
Congratulations.
north of Miami in Palm Beach Gardens. So, my wife bought me. My dad used to love Larry Zonka, and she bought me two old school Larry Zonka jerseys.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Like the turquoise color.
Mm-hmm.
Got the Dolphins low. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It is so cool.
Oh, when you
And
and I
so
get together, you're gonna have to show me.
yeah, so she bought me the white one. The white one's good, but the blue one's like it's freaking epic. Or
That's
the
awesome.
turquoise one is epic. So my dad loved Larry Zonka. So I used to watch
Um,
Larry
nice.
Zonka when I was a kid. Now I got these two Larry Zonka jerseys. So anyway, so
Oh, that's cool.
Dolphins are number two for us
Yeah.
now. So
I love that connection, and I think that's sometimes why we do things because we have that connection with something and it just brings good feeling to us. So thanks again, Chris, for being on the
yep.
show. Thank you, my audience, for being here and listening and the replays and watching again and hearing it again. This is great information. The name of your book again, Chris, is
Think and grow you. Yep.
Think and Grow You by Chris Felton. Thanks so much
All
for
right.
being
Thanks,
here,
sister.
and we'll
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Wisdom on the Front Porch with your host, Ellis Kirkpatrick. You can find us on our website, wisdomonthefrontporch.com, see previous episodes of the podcast, and view issues of the magazine. Did you know you can submit questions, leave reviews, or suggest topics? You can also tell us where your favorite front porch location is and what it means to you. We hope you gain value and insight from today's or previous talks. We appreciate your support for us so we can continue to provide value and expertise to you and others. Subscribe to Wisdom on the Front Porch magazine and receive a second year absolutely free. This is a limited time offer available exclusively to those who mention the name of today's podcast. Join in next week when we bring you another great insight into the world of entrepreneur culture and lifestyle. Make today a great day. Always believe that something wonderful is going to happen.